Hello there, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about Tron Legacy, which is the 2010 Tron film that came out years after the first one, and now 15 years later we're going to have another Tron film that will probably do the same as the other two Tron films, which is have a lot of money spent on them, people go see and think this is too geeky and weird, and who's the audience for it? And then it'll be another 15 years before you do another one. At best. I'll cover the original Tron a little bit first. So the Tron came out in about 1983-84 and was a big Disney production that was meant to make a fortune for Disney. Disney was like financing lots of films and that were not doing well. This was like post what was long dead. They were in a period where the people in charge of the studio were not happy. We're making films that were very mediocre, and a lot of people worked at the time and said a lot of the people there are the mediocre people that haven't been fired or left or moved or retired, and it's like they need a new people in charge, and so they're just doing films that are copycats of other films. Like after Star Wars, you did Black Hole and you did Tron. Black Hole was a bit of a mess I've covered before. Tron was better, but it did okay rather than horribly. But it still wasn't a film that was going to get a sequel. And it was like innovative visually, but as a film itself, it was a bit of a drudge. So this was one of the films whose lack of major success created a thing where they brought in new executives from Paramount who took over and reinvented Disney, created Touchstone, which was the adult side of the company, and started expanding the films they were making, and it led to Disney and some of them become a behemoth again. And they started investing in animation a lot more, and they just looked at what Disney did and what Disney can expand on. So Tron wasn't part of that. Tron was like the old guard whose existence created the need for this other thing. But it's an okay film, but it's a boring film. The problem is like, unless you're a geek who loves computer stuff and who loves like races and things, there's nothing there for you. It's really like Jeff Bridges is the star and he's fine in the film, but it's like it's probably his most anonymous performance in the 80s. He's not really doing much in this film. But he's doing his best what he can with what he's given. And there are other TV actors in it, and it just feels like they spent all the money on the budget and made all these visuals. But there's lots of stuff like CPUs and things that people, unless you're computer literate, wouldn't know about. And the whole idea of someone being miniaturized and put into a computer and they have to escape from it, it's pretty silly. And it never stops being silly, even in Tron Legacy. But it still has some interesting ideas of what's a computer mainframe and being stuck within it and being viewed as a program within this mainframe and trying to survive it. Even within the silliness of it, there's potential there. But the film took itself too serious, it was too stodgy, the original. And it just didn't have the oomph for what you needed for it to be a blockbuster. It was just too niche. And again, it wasn't aware of how silly it was, which was this problem. So, but the thing is, a lot of people who worked on it or were influenced by it became big names in Disney. Like John Lasseter loved it, and he was a big name in Disney when they were doing this. Pixar was focused on trying to get a new Tron film made. There's lots of people in Disney who loved Tron. It was like, let's give this another shot. It's got a name value, and they were like, okay, we'll give it another shot. With a different director. The original director's still alive, but he's not directing it. We'll pay him as a consultant, but that's it. So they brought people in, and because this is now CGI era, they could actually use computers for a lot of things. But they also did practical a lot as well, because it was like CGI still has issues like with depth and things. So it's good for some things, but bad for other things. So they hired Joseph Kosinski to direct it, and this is a debut. So he'd done a lot of like advertisements and things like that. So he was like a commercial director who was given his big chance to make a film. Now Kosinski's gone on to do Top Gun Maverick. He did Oblivion, so he's done 2 Tom Cruise movies. He did F1 in the summer, which I wasn't so keen on. He did a film with Firefighters, which I think is his best film. But this was his first film, so he was more about getting the film look good rather than you're in charge of the narrative. But it was a good choice because he actually understood like visuals and how to tell a story visually. So even if the film might have some narrative problems, which it does, visually getting from A to B to C to D, that was not the problem with this film. The film flows nicely. Sometimes it's flowing in a direction that feels obscure and weird, but it's still flowing as a traditional film, and it has all the moments it needs. So it's actually well directed, and the director understands the limitations and what he's got to play with. So, and they actually expand it. I much prefer Tron Legacy to the original Tron. I'm pretty sure I'll prefer this film to Tron Ares, which does not look amazingly good in any way. It just looks like a bland Tron film. But this one actually, despite some of its silliness, actually works. So basically, it's set like years later. Jeff Bridges' character's Flynn, who was the star of the original. He's back, but he's disappeared years ago. Like he's been since Tron. He's been going back to the arcade where he initially went into the game, and he's built a computer empire. But he's also gone back into Tron and he's rebuilt Tron. Like he's found this world of the computer and actually letting it evolve and creating a world within a world. It's his passion, and it's like the way they do this one, even though it's essentially still kind of silly when you think about it, you know, they play it off a lot better in this film. It's much more, you know, like it's another world. So it doesn't focus on, oh, you're inside a computer all the time. It feels like this is another submolecular world that's based within the computer rules, but it doesn't feel as literal to computer jargon as before. It feels like a world, something like a world that's governed by certain computer rules because that's what Flynn created. So because he couldn't always be there because he did his own work, he created another program called Clue, who would actually do the work day to day to create the perfect system. Clue goes wrong. Clue thinks that Flynn betrayed the initial goal, so he takes over the Tron world, traps Flynn within it, and essentially Flynn disappears, and the world goes on for 20 years, and the Tron world is allowed to develop for 20 years. Flynn's son gets a message from a character called Alan, who was Tron in the original, and he's still part of the company, and the son character is objecting to the way the board is doing things in his dad's company, and he's doing all these publicity stunts and things, and he's been a pain without actually engaging very well. So he's so his mentor gets a page from the arcade where Flynn disappeared. So the son goes there, finds a room behind the room, not seeing anything, which is where Flynn went into the Tron world. So the son gets accidentally into the Tron world, and because the computer system in this thing is modern, even though it was created in the 80s, so it suggests that Flynn had created so much amazing technology, it was well beyond the time. It doesn't make sense, but it works fine for the style of the film. This film just asks you, one thing the good thing about this film is, it just asks you to believe things rather than trying to explain them for like 20 bloody minutes. The original film felt like it was explaining everything. It's like, I don't care. Just show me a good visual. And explain it and I'll believe you. So the film then goes into the Tron world, and that's where the film really kicks off, where the son has to deal with the basically fascistic world led by Clue, he ends up into these like war games that are the Clue runs to keep the different programs happy, while other programs are quietly in the background. There's been wars in this program world. Clue is taking over everything, and lots of people are disappearing and being reprogrammed. And when they find out that the son's is actual what they call a user, which is basically a human, Clue's try to kill him, and these weird Tron-like games, which leads to some fun stuff like cameras going all over the place and a bike fight. These Tron bikes that are you've seen them if you're looking at this video, and they use kind of computer rules, but they're bikes. They can do lots of weird stuff, and visually they're wonderful. All these light beams coming at the back of them, so they get to do a really cool bike ride. And eventually, the son gets rescued. He finds his father, and then essentially they realise they have to try and escape from this Tron world so they can get back. And when once they're back, they can get into the program and take Clue out of the programming and delete them. But as the adventure then to get from A to B. Now the problem with the film ultimately is you've got an act 1, you've got an act 3, and you don't have a middle act. The middle act's 10 minutes long. That's kind of the problem with the film. Essentially, they set it up. There's a brief talk with Jeff Bridges, and then in a race to get out of this thing. And there's some conversations in between, but it's a lot of action, lots of problem solving, but it's basically an action movie at that point for a lot of the film. And essentially the lack of drama makes it feel a lot cold at times for some people. A lot of people did not like this film, and I thought it was just okay. I was behind it because a lot of it really was the characters within movements. You find out a lot about them, so it wasn't a problem. But dramatically, you've basically got like a early act exposition, then you have like the development, which is like 10 minutes. Then there's another action scene with a little bit more development, and then you're in the race to get to this location. And you know, this was basically the third act happens, but now we're in onwards. And that's kind of alienating for people. It's the same thing that happened in Ant-Man 3, where they go to this submolecular world, and basically they have like a really long first act and a really long final act, and there's a middle act that's just like squashed in. So it's very similar to Ant-Man 3 in some ways. But this film actually still works because visually it's beautiful. And Jeff Bridges, even though he's not given the most amazing thing to do, he's playing a dual role. He's playing Clue in a de-aged makeup, which is just weird looking because in some ways for the time it was pretty good, but you can't help but notice the eyes are wrong. The eyes are too small for Jeff Bridges and it just doesn't look right. But he's also playing the older Flynn as well, and he's having fun and he can bring the humanity to it. The actual visuals are always wonderful. There's all this weird sense of like mist floating through some of it, the clouds, and the kind of bright lights of the Tron world, and the bright lights versus dark, creating this kind of landscape that's very unique to Tron and very unique to this film. There's a sense of this as like a growing world that has been stymied by this fascist leader. And all that stuff works, and there's a bit with Michael Sheen as way over the top as this guy who can help people if he wants, and he's a player within this world. But even that still feels like third act stuff when it should be in middle act things. It just feels like it's the setup of third act. And so even though there's some things in there that happen, there's not that much development really. It's just like the visuals are great, it's well directed, you know, the atmosphere is wonderful. You'd happily pause the film and see some of the visuals in more detail. The way everything's done is wonderful. Just the imagery and the attention to detail, attention to the music within the frame, the attention to the framing of the shots. Especially watching 3D. I rewatched this in 3D for this video because I could watch it in VR and 3D, and it looks beautiful in 3D. The images go all the way back. You see tons of details. Just the way everything's framed, the way everything's put together, it all looks beautiful, and it all feels like a world you want to investigate more. The problem with the film is the script doesn't investigate. This film actually needs to be longer. You know, it really does. It needs a middle act. And it doesn't have one, so it feels like it's elongated between like these two elongated acts that are a bit too long, and the middle act where you have the drama is just very short and nothing much happens. And it does pull you out, and it's like dramatically the producers should have seen like, well, why is there not a middle act? Was a stuff shot that was taken out? I don't know, but it does feel like there's missing something in the middle that would dramatise things a little bit more. But even then, it's still it's kind of dreamlike structure, and it just floats. You just float through this film, and it is wonderful. It really is. It's wonderful being in the world. It's just you wish there was more dramatically, but it really doesn't matter because the way Kosinski directs it, it creates a kind of its own unique space that ultimately, even though I knew that this film was some flaws, I was still enjoying the hell out of it, so it didn't really bother me. And that's the way I felt about it before as well. It's like, its flaws don't bother me. I know they're there, but it's not a big deal. The dialogue is not amazing, but the visuals are terrific, and the world's terrific, so that's all you really need. So it's like, Tron's just as a weird thing. It's like, there's nothing new in it, but just the way it's put together visually just looks wonderful. So I would recommend it. But if you can see it in 3D, see it in 3D because it looks really wonderful in 3D. It really helps the film. It's one of those films that exists best in 3D. I know it's hard to find now, but this film is really worth it. I will see the third one just because I've seen the first two, but it doesn't look that good. So we'll see. From the star of Morbius, Tron Ares. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you later. Bye for now.